Just clue me in on your general practice. Do you guys play as a group together often, or have you just, is this the first time you've done it, or?
I mean, we've been playing on and off for 20 years, generally improvised bass, just chaos.
And then you guys know each other's business and I'm not
Yeah, we know our
okay.
ticks.
Great, no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best answer. That's the best possible answer.
I'm Taylor.
Oh, hey, Taylor. Sam.
Sam, nice to meet you.
Jeremy.
Jeremy?
Joe.
Yep.
Nice to meet
The
you.
exterior envelope of the building has been here for over 100 years. And in its earliest incarnation, it was a single-story dairy barn.
Okay.
And then in the early 30s, I think, they added a second floor and it became light manufacturing. And in the 50s, it was part of the Bally Pinball Company. The main manufacturing for the Bally Pinball Company was across the street, and they did some castings and metal stuff and some printing here. Then when we bought the building, it was a plate maker for printing. Yeah, like you can see here, this is kind of a cool detail. Like you can see here that you can see all the way down into the basement. The perimeter of this room has this vent, which what that does is it ties the air volume of this room into the air volume of the room in the basement, and so if you get the acoustic benefit of having a physically larger room. So it's the practical size is quite small, but the acoustical size is about twice as big.
Oh, shit, that's crazy.
Wow.
And the practical effect of that is that it extends the bass response of the room, makes it flatter down to lower frequencies. So you get better bass response in this room. You don't get the sort of folding effect that you get in a lot of smaller rooms where the low frequencies fold back into the room and cause cancellation and stuff.
Good question. Is there a reason for Kentucky? Why Kentucky?
It's a convoluted reason, but there is a reason. The guy that was the foreman of construction here was named Tom Zalewski, and his name is spelled Z-A-L-U-C-K-Y-J. So it looks like Zalucky J, but it's pronounced Zalewski.
Okay.
So that room got named Alcatraz because when we were sawing out the footings in the basement, we saw that room's perimeter out and it left a little concrete island in the middle, and that little concrete island surrounded by a moat was nicknamed Alcatraz. So during the construction phase it would be like, oh, where's the tool bucket? Oh, I left it on Alcatraz. Like Alcatraz was just like a landmark. So then the room above it was named Alcatraz when it was completed. And so that started people naming rooms. And this room was named Center Field partly because it's in the center of the studio, and partly because it's roughly shaped like a baseball stadium.
Right.
So like it's narrow at one end and wide at the other end. So then someone suggested that we name this room Kentucky. No one knows why, but at the time it was always spelled Kentuckyj in honor of Tom Zalewski. So it was spelled Kentucky J, but pronounced Kentucky. And then we made we had to make these panels to interconnect the different rooms to each other.
Right.
And when the order sheet went out with Kentucky with a J on the end of it, we fielded many phone calls from the panel maker wanting to know if the J was part of the name, and then we finally just realized that we would be having this conversation I'm having with you right now. We would be having this conversation every day until we just gave up on it.
It's a science J.
The pedals and stuff overdrive it, so be it. But if the basic sound coming out of the amp is overdriven, then then you can't make it clean from so anything less than about, are your knobs all the way up? Yeah. Anything less than about 1 o'clock and you should be clean enough on here. If that's going to be loud enough for you. It's really unlikely that I'm going to hear something and say that sounds bad.
Okay.
You know, like if you've chosen something, I'm generally fine with it.
Okay.
Like that Gretsch drum kit generally works well in a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
Like the dynamic range on that bass drum in particular is really good. Like it sounds good quiet, sounds good loud.
I guess I'll start with that Gretsch kit.
Yeah, I would say just pick out the stuff that you think you're likely to use.
Yeah.
Get it in the room, build a kit, play around on it, see if it satisfies you. If it does, fine. If not, feel free to I'll leave all those choices entirely up to you.
Okay.
Like you're the one that has to play it, so I don't really want to give you too much advice.
Yeah, I wanted this stuff to feel good. I just wanted to see if there's any go-to that you dig.
The only things that sort of stand out to me are if you want a small drum kit, like if you wanted small sizes, we have choices between more lively and more dry. If you wanted big ones, we have the same deal. We have choices between more lively and more dry. But if you've actually listened to them and chosen stuff that you like,
Okay, cool.
That sounds great to me.
I'll bring a few things.
Sure.
Yeah. All right, awesome. I'm gonna start pulling some.
Can you give him a hand moving stuff up? Excellent news. So altogether, it's going to be 3 toms or 4 toms?
I'm gonna do just 3 toms. I'm probably gonna do 13, 16, and 18.
Okay.
And then 22.
So the 18 will
Two
be an
snares.
outrigger on the snare side.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Secondary snare or?
Yes, sir.
All right.
If that's cool.
I'll allow it. This thing, the aftermath, is kind of a cool. It has that sort of black metal sound of where the guy says, "Murder," and it's all manner of fuzz. Oh, okay. And it has. I like the charming legending on it. I'll bring you a couple of power supplies.
Cool. Thank you. This looks like the one. My arms are full of candy. I just have so much candy in my hands.
You just gotta, I mean, it has to. So I'm gonna have to eventually ask for your assistance in making coffee because I have no idea how to operate that space age.
Make coffee for people.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Do you want an espresso or a latte or fluffy coffee?
I guess I don't.
Trash stacks is like track cymbals just piled on top of each other.
Yeah. And then that was like
super big in the prog rock bands in the like 80s and 90s. Like
yeah.
all the like old, like you'd see a dude with a gray ponytail and he'd have a fucking stack of cymbals he's had since he was 15. That was really super good.
I when I was a young child, I was very into bands like that for a while, and got into all that. But like there's some newer bands that were doing some cool. I mean, it started out with just crack cymbals stacked, and then they just started making stacks.
Have you seen those crash bars? They're like a little rectangular stack of steel plates.
Yeah.
Those, they have like.
Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds exactly like the Pussy Galore snare drum, which was a stack of license plates on top of a snare shell.
Really?
No way, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fucking cool.
There's been a kind of a nice thing in terms of the client base. Like it used to be in the 80s and 90s, that most bands did not have very much experience hearing themselves recorded or recording themselves. Like it was a rare thing for a band to go into the studio to do a recording, you know.
Okay.
So bands didn't have high expectations because they didn't really know how the studio worked. Now, almost every band has significant experience recording themselves and listening to themselves on recordings. So they know what they're capable of. They know what sounds they know what their shit should sound like most of the time. And that's primarily good. And it forces me to take seriously their complaints, you know. Like if a guy has recorded his guitar 1,000 times and he's always liked it, and I set up what I think is a good arrangement, and he hears it played back and he's like, man, that sounds way too dull. Normally it's a lot brighter. I have to take him seriously, and you know, and it also means that I get feedback more. Like people are more apt to tell me what they like and what they don't like, or you know, like, well, I always double my vocals, you know. Okay.
Right.
If you always do it and you always like the results, then that's what we should do, you know.
Right.
Of one harmony, and then 4 to 8 passes of a second harmony, and 4 to 8 passes of a third harmony, and then 4 to 8 passes of a fourth harmony.
So much to
And
go through.
literally this person is singing for 10 hours, which is
For one song.
for one song.
Wow.
And they end up with 200 to 300 tracks of vocals.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's when you hire a choir.
Right.
Well, I mean, and the whole point of this is what we discussed at the beginning of the conversation, which is, let's say someone has gone through all of womandom and found the perfect ankle, and then the perfect calf, and then the perfect knee, and the perfect thigh, and the number one buttock, right? And assembled a leg and positioned that on the couch, and then gone to another leg, and gone through this whole menu of choices where each choice was a deliberate, perfect choice. When you looked at that final assembled thing, it would freak you out and be insane, right? So, and that's exactly what's happening when people, what people like about a vocal performance is that it has a human quality that you engage with as human communication. Not that it is like the best ever S, you know?
Right, right.
Good thing about the democratization of the recording game is that now everybody gets to record, everybody gets to make a record, everybody gets to put their shit on YouTube. That's great, you know?
The thing that's weird that I've noticed, like in the live world, is that the bar for what's fucking exciting has dropped so much. Where, like, you know, you would go and see a show and a band had to actually be like a really good band, and in every facet of the thing, like they gotta perform, they gotta like play well, the shit needs to sound good, the songs need to be strong. It's like they don't need to be anything, but like when you would go and see a band that was great, you'd be like, oh, this is fucking a package, and I'm really appreciating it. Now, at a lot of these shows, kids don't need anything super special, and we're going to these shows, and it's a lot of tracks, it's tons of tracks, and like bands aren't really getting into it. They're just like on the stage, leaning on that shit.
That's genre specific, like.
It is genre, but like
if you go to a house show, it's not. You know, go see a punk band at a house show, it's not going to be like that. And
no,
that's
of course.
And you have I have had, just like my band still tours every year. Like we tour 5-6 weeks a year. We play a lot of the same places we've been playing for 30 years, but we're also playing all these new like civic centers and music centers and all that sort of stuff in Europe. So I'm seeing an enormous range of different places to play music. And the experience of live music to me is still really, really similar to the experience of live music when I was a teenager. There's a different array of bands, different assortment of people, different characters, but like, for the most part, it's people going for it on stage. People, you know, like, there are idioms where it's like all pre-programmed and it's just like a light show. Like, that's for sure there. But there's also still, like, every year there's like a whole new batch of like weird ass freak scene like rock bands that you couldn't have predicted from the year before. So I feel like you know, the stuff ebbs and flows as in terms of popularity, but I just don't feel like music has gotten worse. I feel like music is still fine. It's just like the business side of it is all fucked up and the recording side of it is all odd.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's an engineer that I really admired who did a bunch of my favorite, like really brittle, brutal punk records in the late 70s, early 80s, a guy named John Loder. He ran a studio in London called Southern Studios that became Southern Records and Southern Record Distribution, and it became like a whole big deal. And he was kind of a mentor to me, and I really liked the records that he made as an engineer. And we did a session with him at Southern Studios, and I could tell from some of the choices that he made and some of the ways that he went about things, and I could, you know, from the sound quality, I could tell that this was the guy that made those records that I liked, and that there was a character there that was similar. But in the end, I just didn't like it as much as the records that we did on our own, you know?
Right.
So I feel like there was just, and that same, I mean, I've noticed other people have that same experience where like they would do a record with somebody for a reason, like an argument like that. Well, I like this guy's recordings or whatever. And then you compare those to the records that they made on their own, and the records they made on their own are better. Like,
right.
If you listen to the records that Fugazi did with John Loder and Ted Nicely, and then listen to their last two records, which they did on their own after they'd had a bunch of experience recording themselves. Their last two records sound 10 times better,
yeah.
You know. And that's just like, if you get to a point where you can do it yourself, you're going to understand your own shit better than somebody else's.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Very true.
it's very difficult for me to break
Yeah.
through my habit of not commenting on the music.
Yes.
Like, if I hear something like from a sonic standpoint, or if there's a concern that I have, like, okay, well, this amp sounded like your amp was acting up, or it sounded like there was a dropout that you guys might want to review, like a technical thing, much more likely to bring to your attention.
Right.
And you know, I just don't. I don't make a habit of editorializing on other people's music. But if I hear anything that I think like sounds good or bad in context, I'll if I have an opinion, I'll express it. But it's rare that I'll have an opinion. So
We'll just have to feel it.
We just have to get it right.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever that means.
We just have to get it right.
Okay. Can I hear the side snare, please?
It was like getting lost under the floor tom, but I also didn't have anything to hear, so it's
I
like
think we
that
have-
would be noticeable.
I think we have. Is that a 13 or a 12? It looks like a 13.
I think that is the 13, yeah.
We have a 14-inch tom that from that Gretsch drum kit, which is a. Okay.